Hi, Ben.
Hi, Sarah. How are you?
I'm good. I'm super, super, super excited. I think we could start with saying just because only 2 days ago our hostages were released, so we could start with saying like, Am Yisrael Chai, after Chagim Sameach, we say in Israel, Achre Chagim Sameach. It's like a new beginning, and I'm very, very excited to have you here. I'm going to have an intro in Hebrew and then in English, and then we'll get started, okay?
Beautiful.
אז וואי, אני ממש ממש מתרגשת, גם זו פעם ראשונה שאני בלי סטודיו, אז אני ממש בבית שלי, ואני מתגעגעת לאלון, אלון אל תדאג, וזה גם בנדוד שלי, בן, שאנחנו תכף שנייה נלמד להכיר אותו, והיה לי מאוד מאוד חשוב, בן תכף יגיד לנו בדיוק מאיפה הוא בארצות הברית, אבל לשמוע קצת על הקשר בין ישראל והיהדות, ובן הוא נציג מעולה לזה, אז בואו נתחיל. So, Ben, you're my cousin, and it's very, very special for me. Also, it's the first time I'm not doing this with a studio, since you're in the US and I'm here, and in Israel, and it's very, very exciting for me that you are willing to be a guest on the podcast. And we have a special relationship. I live in Israel, you're from the US, and we're gonna go and dive into it. I will have a disclaimer. Your English is insanely like articulate. Like mostly I don't understand like half of what you say. So I'm going to tell the Israelis that if you don't understand, it's fine. We'll just look it up in ChatGPT and I'll try to also like simplify it. But yeah, I'm excited. So Ben, how have your last days have been? Because like it's been big news from Israel. Trump was here. Like, what's it like? How's it been in the US?
First of all, I will try to keep my English simple.
Okay, I forgot to first introduce you. Sorry, let's start with that. Who are you, Ben? Let's start with that. Then we'll go into Israel.
So, yeah, Ben Marins, obviously, first cousins with you, from New Jersey, working software, founder of a startup, and, very involved in the Jewish community here in America, and very involved in various nonprofits, that support Israel and the soldiers. And from a very young age, my parents brought me to Israel. Maybe the first time was I was 1 year old, year and a half. And we've pretty much gone every year since. And so through that, I've been able to learn about the beauty and the complexity and the uniqueness and the importance, not just to the Jewish people, but to the world of Israel from the inside out. And I think we could get into that and why there's so many misconceptions.
I would love that.
And
wait, and how old are you?
29, almost 30, 13 days. So I'm excited to enter that decade.
And what kind of girl are you looking for, Ben, if we have, I'm just kidding. That was for Nina.
Yeah.
We'll continue. We're not going into dating.
No dating. No dating. So yeah, I'm excited to be here and dig in and share my perspective.
Okay, great. So I will get back because like we're very emotional here in Israel. Like it's almost like hard to believe what just happened. And honestly, like when I was watching Trump at the Knesset, I almost felt like it was like biblical, and it was very, very exciting for us. But I just want to know, like, what were the streets like for how has it been on the street for the Jewish community in the U.S.? Like, what's it like? What are you guys feeling? Like, what's surfacing?
Yeah, I think it's similar to how Israel's feeling, but less intense because it's hard to have that level of intensity here. But through the past 2 years, it's just been really difficult as a Jew and as someone who supports Israel deeply. There's been a ton of anti-Semitism, a ton of dangerous rhetoric, a ton of misunderstanding. The pain of, all the hostages and the 900 plus soldiers that were killed, the innocent civilians that were brutally killed on October 7th, and all of the injuries and PTSD that the soldiers are experiencing, but not just the soldiers, the civilians in Israel, the people of Israel. And the Jewish Americans are experiencing that too, to a lesser extent, but a very serious extent. And so the hostages being released in this 20-point Trump plan that was, pretty brilliantly executed
Really?
across, multiple characters and profiles. It gave this sense of relief um, and some form of victory, in the context of something that is still very difficult. I heard a quote, I think, from Rachel Poland, the mother
Of Hirsch.
of Hirsch, who is a American and Israeli, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hostage who was taken and killed on October 7th. American, right? It's an international thing. And she said there's a time to dance and there's a time to cry. Right now we have to do both. So that was an
It's
experience
beautiful.
that I think I felt. Uh, there was a lot of relief and joy in seeing these hostages that for 2 years were in the dungeons of hell, held by the most brutalistic, evil people that you could
Yeah.
possibly create, uh, and see them reunite with their loved ones was beautiful.
Is there anyone that you felt like exceptionally was like you were touched by one, like any of the videos that you saw like in the past 2 days?
I think seeing Noah Argamani, who obviously became a face of this as
Mm-hmm.
well, and her boyfriend reunite was incredible
Vinathan.
because yes, because I remember on October 7th seeing that video of a 6'4", whatever he is, strong guy, helpless, being carried by these horrible terrorists, civilian terrorists, right? Really, they came in. A lot of these people were civilians,
Mm-hmm.
and she's helpless on the motorcycle behind this, horrible person, and she's reaching out to him, and he can't do anything, and they went to go experience joy and dancing at the Nova
Right. And
Festival.
it's not like it's
So
the Holocaust, right? Where like it was 2023. Like it didn't seem like it was a real, image that we were watching.
in so many, social media and the internet and the proliferation, the widespread nature of all the information and false information that started to materialize and happen after October 7th and on October 7th fundamentally changed everything, right? So
Right.
the kind of imagery, the videos that and the pictures that young children and older, like young kids, right, were seeing, it desensitized a lot of us, right? But it also disturbed us deeply. And I think as American Jews, right, there's more similarity than difference, but there's a very big difference between American Jews, or as they call diaspora Jews, right, but specifically in America, and Israeli Jews, and Israelis in general. And that is, we didn't grow up in conflict, right? I think Israelis have
Right.
grown up in conflict from a young age. You're used to it. Maybe not October 7th level, but historically, and you're used to it. And
No,
I
I think
think
you're being very accurate because like your life is like peaceful in the US, or this is how the Israelis imagine your life. Like, you guys are living the dream. And we have
yeah,
to go to the army and we have to, we face death. I mean, everyone does, but like to an extent, we do that more than you guys, I
uh,
guess. Or
yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's why Israelis are so incredible and the culture is so incredible because it's also one of the happiest, most peaceful, most loving, most, live in the moment cultures far more than America, right? Far more.
hmm
So that's an amazing thing because most places that have that kind of conflict and history and war and, conscription, right? Meaning, citizens have to go to the army, everybody. There's more of a tension and pain all the time, but it's a beautiful thing that it goes from pain to happiness and all at once, right? The dancing, the crying at once. But growing up, it was, we had our problems, everybody does, but it was a cushy
right.
lifestyle, right? It was comparatively, right? When I'd come visit you, it was a beautiful thing too, but we get to see it. I remember when we were driving to you, my dad would, when we were driving, he would leave a lot of space in between the front car. Why?
hmm
In case a terrorist attack happened behind us, there was room to get out.
Yeah,
Um,
my parents live in the West Bank, so that's why you're saying that. Yeah.
yeah, and we So when this started to happen, like I didn't really experience anti-Semitism growing up. You hear the jokes or you hear someone put a swastika on the Chabad campus and it's horrible, but it wasn't like a central piece of my life. Throughout history and all of Jewish history, it was much more centered and often violent and murderous. So we lived in, grew up in this golden age of American Judaism and safety. And so I don't think there was such a strong shock to the system of what was happening. I remember that morning
Wow.
opening up my phone
Mm-hmm.
and seeing, well, actually, I was looking at my text from friends, and someone was like, "Oh, wow, this is really, really bad." And I thought they were responding jokingly to a text one of my other friends sent, which was a little off-color text in the group chat. And then the other person's like, "Yeah, I can't even, these videos are crazy." So, it's actually,
I think I spoke with you that day, if I
yeah, I
remember,
called you guys.
but
I
yeah.
mean, I'll
Yeah.
get into how I felt that day thinking about you guys.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember,
I actually, if you want, like, you know what, I'll just ask you now because I see we're getting into it. But I do think, and this was like why I wanted to have this call with you, is that something happened October 7th, and we were actually going to have this call a week ago, and it got pushed off, and we didn't have the hostages here yet. So it's interesting how things, move so quickly in Israel because we're like suddenly just a few days, and like the whole reality is changing. But something happened October 7th. Like I've known you since you were a baby, because I'm a few years older than you. And you've always loved Israel, and I always feel like you even fit here, like culturally.
yeah,
But something happened October 7th that I think, like, if I look back to, our parents, my dad made Aliyah, our parents growing up in the US, their families and, their communities were very, very involved with Israel. And I think, with the years, over the years, it kind of like, I don't know if like it got like, I don't know, something, it became a little further. And people were like less involved, especially people your age, I feel. I mean, they loved Israel, but they weren't as involved. And I feel like something happened October 7th. And if you could like, because you're already describing what happened that day. So what happened October 7th with the horrific massacre, the brutal massacre of Hamas, that kind of like changed things because I think our relationship kind of like has a bridge in the relationship between like Israeli Jews and American Jews. So I think it's super interesting for my listeners to hear what happened. Like what happened in the US? What happened to you then that like changed things?
I think it
Um,
went from feeling safe to feeling under attack.
you felt
Um,
under attack,
absolutely.
like almost personally.
Oh, 100%.
Really? That is
Absolutely.
surprising. I didn't know that. That's so interesting because we were
Oh,
under attack, like in Israel, but you also felt under attack.
without question. I mean, something, first of all, like the Nova Festival is something I would go to, right?
For
Um,
sure.
the other thing is I'm so close with you guys. I remember some of my first thoughts were, of course, you and everyone, but especially the boys, right? Benyahu, Noam, Shivi, who are combat soldiers. I mean, I remember like really crying out of like fear. Wow, they might, something might happen, right? And it was all unfolded. But I felt under attack for sure, not just because of what it represented, but you know, I think a lot of Israelis might not realize how a lot of American Jews view themselves, and that's that we don't view ourselves that differently. Maybe culturally it's a little different, sure, but like you know we feel Jewish and feel connected to the state of Israel deeply. I'm not going to say it's the exact same thing. You live there, it's different. You serve, it's different. You live through it fine. But I absolutely felt under attack, and
That is so interesting.
that's why we were all galvanized. And galvanized means brought to action.
I was going to ask what it
So
means.
yeah. I don't know what the word is in Hebrew, but it created a sense of strength and
Oh,
community and a
mm-hmm,
tight bond. But like, I
mm-hmm.
need to fight. I need to do something about it. I mean, when you have on October 7th or October 8th, people chanting like, this is the resistance, this is good, and this is justifying, I mean, it's war. This is war. And we're in this war too. And, war is nuanced, but with a war like this, I don't know. It's a little bit, you're going to come after me. They know we're enemies now. And I think for the first time we really felt that. I mean, growing up, like Israel's security apparatus, right? The security system, the infrastructure, the military of Israel is just the most astounding, miraculous, unbelievably impressive
Right.
military in the history of all militaries, and also the founding and history of Israel. But it was penetrated, it was broken, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was broken, and it was a shock to our system because, frankly speaking, Israel's security and safety is a representation of the feeling of American Jew safety as
Like for
well.
any Jew, like
I
any
think
Jew in
so,
the
yeah.
world is like, Shin Bet and Mossad, and like
Yeah,
I guess the Jews in the world felt like they have always felt like they've had like a back, and once like things are falling apart in Israel or feels less secure, then it means that you guys are less secure. Am I
it does.
correct?
And yeah, 100%. And to be clear, there is no better place in the world outside of Israel to be Jewish than America. America is the
That's true.
greatest country, uh, pound for pound, in what it's done for the world. It is the greatest country to be a Jew outside of Israel. It has done more than any other country outside of Israel in the history of the world for Jewish people. And I think the Jewish people have done more for America than any other country also that they've done for, right? And so I feel safe here in America, right? I do. I really, really do. I mean, yeah, there's crazy people and there's anti-Semitism and it's on the rise, but I don't fear. I mean, there was a few weeks after October 7th and maybe some more where I did. In fact, I was more inclined to wear kippah, yarmulke, right? And to show my Judaism. And that's because that sense of war was upon us. And, in
So
war, you
even
kind of have
more
two
like even
choices. There's
your,
two
yeah.
choices. You fall back or you go forward. And, it sounds silly, but it really, the intensity that we have experienced throughout, and especially at the beginning, was feeling like we were under attack, and we've never been under attack as a community. It was all very easy, and it's still hard to comprehend. Um,
And so what
yeah,
happens, because you're saying, I mean, we're already speaking for a few minutes and you're talking a bit
yeah.
about the rise of anti-Semitism, and suddenly it's something that you haven't felt as a child, but like as an adult, it suddenly, arises. Or so what does that like feel like, and what kind of actions, like what does it look like? Because I could tell at least the listeners, when I was young and I came to visit in the US, I mean, there wasn't even a question. Like there was no reason to be ever afraid. And like, as the years go by, there's now like more and more security in the synagogues and in any like Jewish center, Jewish education, things that the U.S. like it wasn't like that before for Jews. So what does this anti-Semitism look like? Like, is anyone scared? Are you like in the New York bubble more, so like you feel it less than other places? Is it a talk amongst you and your friends? Is it something that like, can you tell me like more about that?
Look, I don't feel scared on a day to day. I'm more concerned with what the future is going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it feels that, the younger generation has a lot of misinformation and doesn't have the ability to sit and read deeply about a very
Mm-hmm.
complex context
Mm-hmm.
situation. Where is that going to lead us, right? Uh, that's what I'm concerned about. I'm not concerned about safety, but we go to synagogue, we go for a Shabbat dinner, and we have armed security, right? We have
It's
armed
crazy.
security all the
It's
time,
so crazy. Yeah.
um, and that's pretty serious, So it's not something I'm scared of. It's not something most people are scared of. But I do remember for a bit of time after October 7th, some people changed their last names on their Uber accounts.
No.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Now I didn't because my name's ambiguous and I wouldn't anyways. Um, but
No, yeah, it's
I also think that there's many, many friends of the Jewish people here. I was at a bodega, which is a convenience store last night. I started talking to a guy who works there, and we're having a great time. We're getting into it, and he's not Jewish, but he supports very close. I think sometimes you see a louder side on the anti-Israel, anti-Semitic side. They've got a better narrative, right? They've got better marketing,
I think they also
and
have like more people, like just in general, like there are more
well,
people, more
well, I don't
mouths.
know. That's kind of the question, though. I mean, I think they're increasing, but if you look
Hmm.
at some of the data from Pew and other reputable organizations that have done studies and surveys, most Americans support Israel. I mean, that has decreased significantly throughout the war. And there's a lot of reasons why that may be. I think there's anti-Semitism. I think there's narrative. I think there's social media. I think there's, at the end of the day, when you're going to fight a war like this, it's hard to really win the narrative a little bit when you're so much stronger than the enemy, right? So I guess I'll make one point is you hear people say genocide, which is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. You can say that the war was a little bit overly destructive. Fine. I'm not saying I agree with that, but what I'm saying is you can have that argument. That's a very fair discussion to have. But a genocide is when you try to, systematically remove a certain people based on their ethnicity. And Israel's military power, they could do it before we end this podcast and probably before I end the sentence. The issue, is that people are confused by what that word means, and they're okay saying it, and then they dehumanize Israelis and the Jewish cause, and they associate the Israeli flag and Jews with terrorists. And part of their argument is there is 60,000 plus Gazans who've been killed. A very large chunk, probably at least 20,000, maybe 30,000, maybe even more, that were actual terrorist combatants as well as enablers. And they don't, Hamas doesn't distinguish between those numbers. But they say, and then there was about 2,000 in total or so Israelis killed. So that's ridiculous. But if you're going to say that that's the reason it's a genocide, then you're going to call Germany, the Third Reich in World War II, the victim of genocide because they've had so many people who were killed. Now, if Gaza had the same amount of military power or more than Israel did, the numbers would be completely lopsided. They would never stop. So I think the social, verbal discussion-based issues are the hardest. I don't have any physical fear. Although, you never know. You see what happened in London. You saw what happened outside in DC where they killed 2 Jews for being Jewish.
It's concerning.
Charlie Kirk, and people are saying it's a support of Israel. There's still fear that's looming, that's around on that. But the main thing is the dialogue, the narrative that one group has, that's wrong.
So what happened? This is not for the Jewish community, but I'm just concerned with the young people in the U.S. What's going on? It's not I grew up in the end, my parents did make Aliyah, but they were Americans. I mean, they're still Americans, and the land of the free, and the U.S. is just a great place where you can there's morals and justice. So what happened to the young generation? Is it TikTok? What is it? What's going on? It's not it's not the place I grew up looking up to.
I think Western values, Judeo-Christian values are what drive American principles. And I think, those are the best principles in the world. It's freedom, it's democracy, it's safety, it's the pursuit of happiness, it's capitalism, it's free markets. And I think a lot of people don't want that for some reason. I think there's a lot of foreign influence, frankly speaking, and some people say that's conspiratorial, but it's not. I think you follow the money. You always got to follow the money. And there's specific countries, I'm not going to get overly political, that have been funding from the ground up, social media and education. You also have to recognize that who are the young people learning from? It's the professors, right? It's universities. And that creates an issue. But I'm very hopeful, even though I'm concerned, that light will win and America will remain America. Unfortunately, it's super polarized, right? It's very, very polarized.
We kind of have the same thing in Israel. If you remember, the war did break when we were very, 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 we're divided into groups. And I think for at least for Israeli society right now, the Chagim are over and this miracle just happened. And now it's going to be a lot of work. How do we, get into healing? Are we still going to argue in these 2 groups? Is it time to be together? I mean, obviously we stuck together during the war and people were fighting in combat from any political view, but it's been hard to have an argument. What happens in the US is not only in the US, what's happening in the US. And it's so I understand what you're saying, but I'm happy to hear that you were hopeful because I was thinking to ask you, like, as a young Jew, like, who's a kind of a leader in the community, so like, what's the future going to look like? I mean,
Yeah.
like, so it's good to hear that you're hopeful. Like, are you and your friends talking about this? Like, what's the discussion? What are the discussions like? Are people like, should we just move to Israel? Like, what are the discussions?
Yeah, some people say we should move to Israel, etc. We talk about this all the time, right? It's on our minds.
Hmm.
And I think Israelis need to realize that. And maybe they do, maybe they don't care,
I
but
think they
it's
don't.
very,
No, they
yeah.
they
And
don't
they're
know.
not, even if I explain, they're gonna be, oh, you don't get it. That's fine. Like, that doesn't bother me, maybe a little bit, but, but that's fine, right? I mean, what, our discussions are about, are all about what's going to happen in this future, right? Support is waning on all sides. And I think there's a movement of isolationalism, which for
Hmm.
the viewers who might not know that word who are Hebrew speakers, that means that,
Bidud.
yes, a
Yeah.
lot of Americans feel like we should stop getting involved in other countries' affairs, which if I'm an American who doesn't have a vested interest in Israel on the surface, I could understand why. I could explain why they should, but I could understand why they think that. I mean, you have a serious homelessness issue. People can't afford health care, right? I mean, so why are we spending all this money elsewhere? The truth is, I mean, you have to because Israel is literally on the front lines of fighting a war that is going to come to America if not. And it's a very significant partner. And I think a lot of Americans don't recognize that on a security level necessarily. So, but we wonder what's going to happen when support is waning on both sides. And so my friends and I, we talk about it. Hey, I really want this war to end. You guys want the war to end for various reasons. We do too, but it's also like, look, there's a direct correlation between the support of Israel going down. It's an inverse correlation and the war continuing, right? And so the
Hmm.
hope is that, okay, or the protesters, the no job protesters, I mean, their job is to go and protest and get paid by certain foreign
I
entities.
thought it was just a meme. I didn't realize it was an actual
No,
thing.
no, it's real. People have
I didn't
exposed
know.
it.
חבר'ה,
Um,
אני לא יודעת, I'll say this in Hebrew, אני לא יודעת אם אתם יודעים, יש איזה שמועה עכשיו שרצה, שכאילו לא יודעת אם שמועה, אבל שממש משלמים לאנשים שכאילו כל התומכי פלסטין שילמו להם, זאת הייתה העבודה שלהם. So we're like paying jobs for them to do this.
yeah, I mean, soon they're going to have AI protesters.
I know, those look so good, the AI protesters. They always know what to
Yeah.
say. Yeah,
But
no, I'm
I would just say this, I'm hopeful. I believe in America and I believe in what America stands for and that the good will come out of it. You got to be
Mhm.
careful. You got to know that. We also said Israel's impenetrable, it's safe, and then this crazy massacre in a way that we can't even wrap our head around happens. So you got
That's
to
true.
also be careful.
So, our grandfather, Paul Opa, was a Holocaust survivor. And I mean, he was a Holocaust survivor who then came to the US, I have to say. And what do you think he would, from the little that we both knew him, what do you think he would say about these times?
Well, he passed away when I was about 8.
Right.
And he was a real fighter. He spent 6 years in the concentration camps, born in Frankfurt. A lot of his family murdered. And, it's a crazy story of survival and grit and faith. Uh, it's hard to know. I mean, if I were to
Of
put
course.
myself in his shoes, just thinking about his temperament, I think that he'd be pretty angry. I think that it's good he didn't see this. You come from the Holocaust to the land of opportunity that gave him free life and gave my mother a great life, who then gave me a great life, which is again why I think America is unbelievable. He would have been pretty distraught. Yeah, I think he would have found ways to make jokes as he did, that only he could
Hmm.
make somehow.
Yeah, I feel like he would be proud probably of my siblings and
That's
I
true.
for serving in the
Absolutely.
IDF. And I think because it does bring up trauma. Like I mean, I couldn't stop like watching videos of Avinatan and Noah Argamani. He's like you said, he's almost 2 meters, and he tried to escape. And that's why they like put him even more like in a like a closed space that was even like he couldn't either stand or stretch or lay down, like with his height. I mean, and he like had no food. And it does bring up, because I know like only one person that I know, Opa, our grandfather, who went through like 6 years of this, and he did survive, and he did have a family. And that's the only reason why I know that these guys are going to be okay, because we do have proof. We have proof, people who, met death and came back from there and, had families. So I'm sure he would be proud of all of us, I think, because, I mean, you guys in the US are super involved. You came on like the first plane that was available. You just came
3 weeks after October
Yeah.
7th. 3 weeks
You're
after
like,
October 7th, I came.
כן,
I
מדובר פה
see it.
בחבר.
It was such a feeling of hopelessness. We had to go.
Yeah, and you were here, and I mean, you were just here to be with us. I mean, like not only with your cousins, with us, with Israel. You like went to every place that needed help, and you were just here to, give your support. So I think he would really be proud of all of us. But yeah, it's crazy. I mean, to just see like, we grew up on Opa's legacy, and never again. And then when you see things that are not the same, but remind us of the same traumas and the same, hard times that the Jewish people went through. I mean, it does feel like that. I do have another question for you. A lot of Israelis past 2 years, not a huge amount, but here and there were like, very, very hopeless, like you said. And they said, you know what, we should just leave the country. Should just leave Israel. There's never going to be a good life here. I mean, we had a 2-year war with, you were here when we had bombs and we had to go to the shelter, through everything that, we had to live alongside a war for 2 years. And then people are like, well, let's just leave this country. And I actually wanted to hear from you. What do you love about Israel, and what's like good, hopeful things you could say to us here in Israel?
I mean, look, there's Sabra hummus in the supermarkets, and then there's Israeli hummus. And if that's not enough, then I don't know what's wrong with you.
Wait, let me tell my listeners, מי שהיה בארצות הברית, there's like, יש חומוס שקוראים לו סברה חומוס, שזה כמו כזה, חומוס אחרי כזה. קיצור, זה לא חומוס, right? Ben, it's not חומוס.
זה לא hummus.
So,
and then there's Israeli hummus. That's
right.
great. But actually the food is amazing. But some of the realer answers are, when I go to Israel, I feel very present. I feel very alive.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot happening. And a lot of the times, in America, you kind of go with the flow, etc. But in Israel, it's so alive. The people have so much passion, and the connection is very, very deep. I remember being there last December. We're walking around with my brother, and I think maybe you and some cousins, and we're on a street, Nahalat Ben Yamin. For those who don't know, it's a great, very good vibey street, beautiful restaurants, beautiful people, good energy in Tel Aviv. And we look around, and we're walking down the street. People are sitting outside. I'm telling you, there's not a phone in sight. There's not a phone. And what are people talking about? I don't know. They're talking about everything. And it's connected. There's a sense of connection there that I feel when I'm there that you don't get elsewhere, anywhere in the world, really. And you see that by the unity of what happens both internationally in the community as well as in Israel. I think it's also, there's a chillness to Israelis. Like I said, there's a dance and a cry. And, Israelis are fun, right? Like,
there's a pasuk that you say, Ein bemar bוכה ולב שמח. Like, in one eye you're crying, but you have a happy heart. And
yes.
we said this like pasuk like the past 2 years, because we've all been like, you're saying that you're walking down the streets. Could be you saw people who lost family members on October 7th. Could be you saw people that their friends were, fighting in Gaza as they were, sitting and having dinner at the street. So like there was always, like for the past 2 years, Ein bemar bוכה ולב שמח. Like you had those both, like you said, the dance and the cry.
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally relate.
Well, I would also say that I've never met an Israeli that is not confident, believe it or not. It's something I've thought about. There's a certain strength that all Israelis
So
have,
interesting.
and that I've really, never in my life met one, even maybe the quiet, like everyone's got a sense of self. Um, and that's great. And then it's a beautiful country. I mean, it is absolutely stunning. I love the land itself. First of all, obviously Tel Aviv, the beach. Jerusalem is so historic. The energy, the fire there. I mean, it's so powerful. There's a spirituality. In America and New York, you talk about what you do. Who makes the most money, who's who, and what you're
Wow.
wearing, and all
Wait,
these things.
I have to say something about that because I mean, I'm 35, so yeah, obviously, like I need to take care, and like I want to, make money so I could live. But when I visit you guys in the US, it's not you, like it's not my cousins, but it's just like such a different atmosphere. Like when me and my friends, like, like we'll, have a Shabbat dinner or grab a coffee or, spend time in a bar. We don't speak as much like about money. I feel it's not that I feel like it's just very expensive to be an American Jew. And you guys have to pay more for schools and like for the community centers. And I feel like it's very stressful. Like, and here it's just like people are just more relaxed about it. Maybe because we're, our country is different, like in terms of it's like also a social country. So, like healthcare is different and everything is a little different. But like, it's very stressful. And so I see what you're saying because I feel like over here, I guess, like when it doesn't matter how much money you make, we both found ourselves like in, doing reserve duty and like it's just a little more like equal, I guess. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
there's a common ground, and I think there's not a lot of common ground here to the same extent. But I think it's not just about the socialist
Country.
history and the fact that
Yeah,
it's socialized health. I mean, it is a capitalist country more really, and I just wanted for the viewers to
that's
make sure
true.
they understand that.
That's true. That's
Right, free
true.
markets, et cetera, unbelievable.
Of course,
Um,
of course.
but socialized healthcare, all that good stuff. I
Yeah.
think I think that there's a different value system, frankly speaking. When I'm there, I'm so used to talking about, hey, what's up? I'm talking about my startup. I'm like, what do you do? And people aren't interested. I mean, maybe they want to talk a little, but you're out, want to have fun. They want to enjoy. They want to be
Right.
alive. There's an adventurousness. There's a certain spirit. And that's what I mean. You feel alive. The music, people are just having the best time. You know, and that's pretty powerful. And that's something that's great. I think the north has beautiful mountains, and I love that. I love it up there. It's like just absolutely incredible. And I think a lot of people go to Israel, they go maybe to the Jerusalem or Tel Aviv, something like that. But you've got these natural baths and there were places that King David went to go bathe in, right? Literally in the middle of the country. It's so beautiful. And I've been to those locations as well. And I mean, it's just like, wow, this place is phenomenal. But if you grew up there in a country smaller than New Jersey with all this, it's a burden. There's still a burden. I understand why you want to leave and why a lot of Israelis go to the army and they go to Thailand and Costa Rica for 3 years. I mean, it makes sense. And by the way, it
Right.
also talks to the character that I'm talking about, that adventurousness, that living in the moment, that
Yes.
they do that.
Yes. That's why I feel like you belong here. I know that it's not on your agenda right now, but like you are like I think that there's something about you that's very zorem,
Hmm.
zorem, right? Like,
I do, yeah.
and just that spirit, like, really fits here. So, I mean, yeah,
Well, it's
very
something that
adventurous.
I've thought about. Something I've thought about,
Yeah,
and
time
will
and place.
continue to think about.
For sure.
Yeah.
Um, we're almost gonna, close up, but I wanted to know if there's anything that you wanted to talk about, any topics that you think, because I think again, not a lot of people, like also, I guess, Americans who will maybe listen to this. Like, not everyone gets a chance to like have the relationship that we have, and I think in our family it's very special. Like our WhatsApp group is very vibrant, and we try to be very honest and open there. And even if we disagree, like because yeah, at the end, like we don't always agree, on politics and things that have to be done. I mean, just a few weeks ago. I mean, we had a discussion, you and I, because you felt like maybe Israel is making decisions that's making her very like isolated, and you were concerned about that. And you know, things happen so quickly that is it still an issue? I don't know, because it looks like we're going to Abraham's Accords, but like, I mean, things are always happening, and our family, you know, tries to always have things open. Is there anything that you think that maybe, I don't know, Israel should have done different, or anything that you feel like maybe us Israelis, your Israeli cousins, we don't understand about you guys, like something that you would want to like say or think about, or
Look, I think there's two things.
hmm
Look, I've never been in the military. I'm not in politics. I don't know all the details. It did feel like the narrative that some of the Israeli leaders were talking about, some of the, you know, more extremist ones,
hmm
are just going to hurt any case that we're going to try to build to show that this is not a genocidal or
like yeah,
revenge-based
you were
war.
trying to show that, you know, Israel are normal people who like would want to live in peace but
We
were
didn't want
attacked.
this. We got the
Yeah,
hostages back. It's a ceasefire, right? I mean, come
right,
on, this is ridiculous. But there's certain people who don't agree, and those people voted no in the cabinet to not take this deal, right?
right.
And those are top people. Um, so that's
I
one
mean, they're
thing.
in
I
the
think,
government. Yeah.
yeah, they're in the government and they're minister. You know, they're not just like
Yeah.
one of the, what is
No.
it, 120 people in
Yeah.
the Knesset. They're
Yeah.
more than that. But anyways, I think there's a narrative thing there. And then the second is, well, it's also like maybe a lot of, you know, a lot of people tend to say, oh, it's anti-Semitism. And I think that hurts the cause a bit because there is a lot of anti-Semitism that is inexplicable, meaning it just happens. We can't explain it. There's nothing we could do. But we have to take a little more like of an analytical approach, in my opinion, and say, but why, right? And what can we do to um, shift the framing? And I think that the Jewish community and Israelis understand the complexity of the situation, and we expect other people to engage in a nuanced dialogue, but they don't.
hmm
They want headlines.
That's so
And
interesting because
when
yeah.
the other side says, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, and you could be, you know, have an IQ of 32, but get on and we're talking here about, oh yeah, the Oslo Accords and the David Accords and, you know, 1948 and the armistice and, you know, 1957 and 67 70, and we're just going on data and history and history. We lost them, right? What about the argument of, look, we're a sovereign nation, right? To attack back. How can we simplify this to get to the bones of it? And they do a much better simplifying, and that's a problem. And I think we have to figure that out. And if we don't figure it out soon, then we're in trouble.
So what you're saying is, because I actually want to, you know, maybe highlight that, is that when you know, because we don't know what's going to happen now in the next. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow or in the next few weeks. Like I'm not even sure everything is over yet. But like obviously this is a new beginning of something. We don't know of what. At least the hostages are home. But what you're saying, like to me and my Israeli friends, guys, when you get back to your like new normal, um, like try to see the Jewish community, you know, in diaspora also. And like, I mean, I think that's interesting because like, I mean, we started the conversation with you saying that October 7th you felt attacked. So maybe when we're here, you know, the way I don't know if, I mean, me personally, if there's something I could do, but just like as a I don't know, a country or people as civilians here, we should notice that, you know, we're not the only ones who were in trouble, and like when we express things out, we should also see like this huge community in diaspora who wants to help us, who
Yeah.
wants to, you know, be with us, who wants to, and who could be our advocates, and we have to, you know, see that and like see how we can, you know, I don't know, express
Yeah,
you
I think it's on the, you know, any civilian has a responsibility, but I really think it's really about politics, right? It's really about the
politics.
politicians, right? And
Yeah, that I'm not sure I could help with.
right, no, maybe you
Yeah.
can, you know, I'll vote for you, but
Yeah.
when you have, you know, prime ministers of, you know, Israel's greatest allies,
Right.
and the greatest Western countries, you know, that have the same values, generally
Yes.
speaking, as America and Israel, say that we're going to recognize a Palestinian state. as a consequence, in response
Right.
to this horrible terrorist attack. You're almost, you're almost saying that you approve of it. By the way, it's not what they're saying, but you almost are. There's an implicit um,
I,
implication there. And I would say though that but I don't think that's the reason they did that exclusively. I think they also wanted to do that because they couldn't get control on Israel's politics. And I know they wanted to end the war, but I think some of it is a narrative thing, right?
yeah,
Like play friendly on the surface, shake hands, say we're together in this, and don't just be tough guy all the time, punching everyone,
I
Uh,
understand, but I did tell you back when we, discussed this personally that I'm not sure like what I've learned from these past 2 years that I mean, I think Trump and Bibi said this on Monday, but I agree with it without like getting into what I think about each of them. But I do agree that, the force did bring results. Like, unfortunately, like we can't just, solve everything with diplomacy because it didn't help us. Like we were attacked, we were hopeless. Like we had to use force to get to these results. And yes, like I'm not sure that, there's something that we have to, I guess, be less innocent about. I think looking into the future is that I don't, I wish we could go back to, the days, you said the golden age that we had before, but maybe this is our reality now and we'll have to, be careful and understand that we may have a lot of haters. And I'm not sure that it would be different if other people were in politics. I mean, yes, to an extent, but I'm not sure, people would chant other things down the streets.
So let me be clear on my perspective here that appeasement, meaning, sort of trying to do just diplomacy with an enemy like Iran and Hamas and Hezbollah is ridiculous.
Yeah,
It doesn't work, right? And I
no,
think a lot of people don't understand the style that those countries and terrorist organizations have and their motives and how radical they are and how obsessed they are with death and how fearless they are of death.
right.
And almost how they like glorify it. They do. Um, and there's no coincidence that this deal came on the back end of some serious force. Because I think people started to realize that Israel's might, military might, and their ability to use it um, is going to really shift things. And so we got to finish this. And that's why the Arab countries, including Egypt, including Jordan, Turkey, Qatar, um, all of them were pressuring Hamas saying, you got to take this deal. They were telling them to take this deal. And so I want to be clear that I support a strategy that's more hardline because it's necessary, not because I
Right.
like it or want it.
Agreed.
What I will say is that there's that, right? And then there's narrative. Narrative is not about what you do, it's about expressing the intentions of why you're doing it. And it's also about how you communicate it to the world and how you communicate it to other politicians. And so when you come across as somebody who doesn't care what anyone says, and we're going to do this because we have to, and if you try to stop us, screw you, it's never going to work, then somebody who has pride and who has resources and who has a political constituency, right, their voters who are saying,
Hmm.
stop them, they're going to feel desperate and pushed up against the wall. So just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I'm not talking about military, I'm talking about style of engaging with other world
Yes,
leaders.
yes.
And that's all, that's all I would have hoped. And, we have to kind of explain, hey, our intention isn't to, take over Gaza. Our intention is
No.
to find peace. And we're going to do everything we can. I never heard that. I never heard it loud and clear from the Israeli leaders, from three in particular. I never heard this is
That's
a
so interesting.
this is a war about peace, and this is a war about getting a better life for Israelis and making sure
You
that
didn't hear
Gaza
that
lives
from our prime
safely.
minister? You didn't hear that from our prime minister?
No, it was this is a Jewish war. We have to defend ourselves. We have a right to defend ourselves. This is the worst massacre since the Holocaust. All these things that are true, but all these
Hmm.
things that are not they're gonna fall on deaf ears, right? It's hard,
Hmm.
but you say this is a war about peace and giving a better lives for
Yeah.
everyone,
No,
including
I
it
hear.
changes the narrative, and I'm not saying it's going to
Hmm.
fix the situation, but it
Yeah.
makes it seem a little less
I think that the feeling here in Israel after 2 years is that like there's so much we can explain, even though we did such a bad job with like explaining ourselves, but there's so much, like honestly, but there's so much we can explain, like we were surviving here. So like I hear what you're saying, and yet I know we like had to survive, it's like a thin line. But yeah, I totally understand, and I hope like everyone listening like could also hear what you're saying on this topic and take it in. 10 years from now, Ben, what do you think's gonna be like? What's Israel gonna be like? What's the relationship between our communities are gonna be like?
Between America and Israel?
No, I'm talking about the Jewish community. Like, what do you see? Like, in 10 years from now? What's gonna happen? What's gonna be? What do you have in mind? It's okay if you don't have an answer.
I think for one, Israel's going to be in a better security position after this, all in all.
Already.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Already. It's very hard to predict the American political landscape. I think it's going to come down to how we control that narrative, or else you're going to lose support on the right and left because they're going to misunderstand.
Oh, so from the Jewish community, you think?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah?
100%.
Wow.
You've got a lot of people voting for certain politicians who 2 years after October 7th say, stop the genocide. I mean, it's disgusting. It's horrible. You have a lot of Jewish people voting for them. And why? Because they look at what's going on and they don't understand it either. So I understand it because I'm close to living it, and I know you, and I get it. All right. And I'm educated on these situations.
Yeah, you are.
I lived in Israel. But you can't expect others to. You got to simplify this, and you got to make it clear that the Jewish value, more than anything, is peace. How do you say hello? It's shalom. I mean, it's like, it's which means peace. It's, well, like you say, you got to do it through force sometimes, in that, when you have enemies like that. But people have to know that we're a peaceful nation, peaceful people, and we want peace. And when you go to Israel, you experience that in the people. Yeah, there's guns because there has to be. But I mean, we're hanging out, we're chilling, and we are loving, and we are feeling great. And there's a peacefulness. And I hope people could understand that. And that's what I want people to understand. And I wish they did a little bit more.
Cool. So what do you want to, I don't have the word in English, but le'achel, what would you like to end with? And for the Jewish people in Israel, for the Jewish people, in the US, but like, what do you want to end with? במה אתה רוצה לברך אותנו?
That many Jews across the world, and especially myself and my friends, feel indebted, feel very grateful for Israeli soldiers in Israel. It does make a difference for us, and we understand that. And when you tell Israeli soldiers that, sometimes it sounds corny, but we have a tremendous amount of respect and a gratitude, and I just hope they recognize that and continue to realize that whether they've been injured or whatever it might be, it's for a good reason. And despite all the hate that might be coming their way, the support and the love that we have is much, much stronger, and that they can have great lives and we can have a strong community together. And that American Judaism and American values continue to flourish, and Israel does, and that this was a small blip in an otherwise great history that we can look back on in 40 years, and I can tell my kids, yeah, it was a crazy time, and you can't even imagine compared to how it's like now. and that's my hope. And that was the way it was with the Holocaust, and that's going to be the way it is now, hopefully.
Wow. Ben, thank you so much for hopping on this call. It means so much to me because, again, like you're not only my cousin, you're a close friend, and you're a smart kid. I mean, you're not a kid anymore, but like I really...
I'll always be a kid to you and the family.
To me. Yeah. But I appreciate you because I do want to hear, I don't know if it's a perspective that everyone I know here in Israel knows of. And this is a good bridge, and I feel like the more it's true for Israeli politics, but the more people unite and come together and hear other perspectives, and we're all Am Echad, we're one nation. So it was important for me to hear, and also you're like, again, you were here 3 weeks after October 7th. Like you're a close friend to this country, like.
I could be a citizen in a month, right?
Yes.
And the only reason I'm not is for tax purposes. But
God.
you have to.
We'll accept you anytime. You know that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, one day, God willing, I'll have a place to live there on my own. And we could build a nice kibbutz boutique hotel on the Kinneret. That's my dream.
Oh, wow.
Where we can live peacefully and live happily. And in 5 years or 10 years from now, we'll bring this back up and say, it was once just a dream. Now it's a reality, right?
For sure.
Just like Herzl said. All right, Sarah.
Great.
Thank you.
Gotta go.
This was really great.
Love you so much. Thank you for hopping on again. And who knows what's going to be? You know, we're in this together. So have a great day and a great week and a great year. And I love you very much.
Love you too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.